He tio, he puka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. And yes, I do realise that the chair usually sits there, but I quite like sitting over here. I've got used to it over the last however long, so I'm staying here. So today we have apologies from Guy Holroyd, Kath Lawson, Paula Diamond and Simon Weston. We haven't heard from Matt. Maybe he's still coming. Can I have a mover for those apologies? Vince is moving, we are seconding. Thank you very much, all those in favour. And, oh, I've forgotten to housekeeping. Is there anyone here unaware of the emergency exits? No, you're all aware of where they are, great. And members can declare any conflicts of interest as they arise during the meeting. Is that all right with everybody? Thank you. Right, confirmation of the minutes of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group meeting.
I'll move.
Getting online? Sorry.
I'll move.
Thank you, Vince. Seconder? Also going Gordon? Sorry. Any comments on those minutes, please? Oh, Matt's online. Is that Matt? Yes.
Sorry, I was just going to go close my door. Hi, how are you, everybody?
Welcome. We're just going through the minutes. Sorry, I was just acknowledging you're here. Thank you. Go and had to do. So no comments from the minutes. All those in favour? Carried. Right. Swiftly moving through to item 5.1, our action sheet. I'll move that we receive the action sheet. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Vince. And we need to find some more things to put on our action sheet. Thank you very much. It's all completed. And there's a further update in the agenda on the Agency Coordination Centre. All those in favour?
Aye.
Right, item 6.1, NEMA update. We've got Mike in the room with us today. Do you want to speak to that report before I move?
I think there's a couple of, thank you, Chair, there's a couple of things have happened since writing this, and I'm not sure how far, Jenny, you want to go through some of the review stuff, but I'll just go do a light touch, and if we've got something on the agenda I can help maybe colour it in. Last time we met, the bill was, the emergency management bill was still in play, and that has been withdrawn. And the important thing to consider about that is that was one of the recommendations in the reviews that have been done, particularly Sir Jerry Mataparai's review. And that has so far has been the only decision on any of the recommendations in the review to pull the bill. The Minister is very clear that he wants a replacement bill before the House and passed within this term of government, and that is quite a significant amount of work for the sector, really, but in particular NEMA. So I don't know what engagement looks like in that space, but there's a real clear message that new bill in the House passed by the end of the end of this term. There is a review process going on at the moment in terms of informing the recommendations to Cabinet. I know group managers are across that and have been working with DPMC on that. And from the NEMA perspective, we've done a review of the reviews. There's over 30-something reviews that have been collated, and the NEMA perspective on recommendations is feeding into that DPMC process. First, think it's your first report back to Cabinet, and late September or early September, I beg your pardon, is a further recommendation to Cabinet with budget and milestones and that sort of thing. So this week and September, first week of September, where there will be final recommendations to Cabinet, just some things for your awareness. And lastly, what's not in my report, we had budget released last week, of interest to all of us, I'm sure. Of relevance to NEMA is not required to save 6.5% in terms of its, the public sector funding cuts. So NEMA retains that. What that means physically for NEMA is a very clear steer from the Chief Executive that he is going to invest in the assurance function of NEMA. So you often hear the Chief Executive talking about the agency as the operator, steward, and assurer of the system. Assurance is a piece that has probably not been as well developed as others. He will be recruiting at the DCE level and starting to build that side of the organisation up as a result of the budget announcements. As a result of the budget, also, we'll be growing our staff numbers in accordance with the government's priorities. We still haven't received the minister's priorities, and the reason for that is the North Island Severe Weather Event Reviews will inform his priorities, and also the recommendations back to Cabinet from DPMC. So we're in a bit of a holding pattern, but what we do know out of the budget is we're roughly 160 staff now, and it'll go up to our establishment of 180. Aside from that, government is also investing about $1 billion in cyclone relief, resilience and emergency preparedness, and of that, about 10.5 million, which doesn't sound a lot when you put it against the billion, is going towards a new National Emergency Management Facility in Wellington. And yeah. So that's
that was one of the things that came out of an earlier recommendation.
Yes.
The TAG report.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's been around for a while.
Yeah.
The bunker.
Yeah.
And it's fit for purpose kind of argument. Yeah. So that's my update. Chair, and happy to take any questions.
And I just want to acknowledge Kahiha, our mayor, Moko Tepanea. Haven't seen him for ages. Kia ora e hoa. Vince has got a question.
Yeah, I understand the logic in trying to do something in Wellington. However, I'm still concerned, as from an emergency side of things, of all the places, that's probably the worst place to have a central location to be in relation for emergencies. So what is the logic about Wellington?
Great question. Because that's where the government sits, Mayor Grillo. And that actually is a piece of work that has been that I'm involved in also down in Auckland. So Auckland has been identified as the failover for Wellington, and there has been a lot of work done to develop an alternative national crisis management centre. And this was just touched on at the last KEG in terms of the catastrophic planning, and an update which we'll be bringing to the next KEG, and I'm happy to bring it to here as well. But to answer your question, plans are in place to establish an alternative national crisis management centre, and we're working with stakeholders in the public sector and in CDM groups around what the staffing of that might look like.
And where it will go.
Ellerslie, yeah.
Again, I would question Auckland. I would probably say we're actually building one in Whangarei here. Wouldn't it logically be Whangarei, since when we look at emergencies and actually the effect of what actually can happen at other locations, Whangarei is actually probably the safest out of all of them.
You're probably right in terms of that. In terms of the hazardscape, I think the logic stands, but I think in terms of being able to, when you think of the sort of event that would give rise to something like that being needed, you're going to need a workforce, and the public sector workforce and the chief executives or the delegated chief executives who will be alive on that day, they will all be residing in Auckland, and I think it's more of a workforce, and also so there's the workforce element, but also National Assembly areas and NZDF and a whole lot of other assets down in Auckland. I tried floating the same argument for Christchurch and that didn't float either.
Well, it's in the middle of an earthquake zone.
And prone to liquefaction, but we designed our way around it.
And if the Defence Force moves Northland, then we're still in the same situation, whereas Whangarei would be the logical spot.
Well, I mean,
Thought provoking.
Okay, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I know, I acknowledge.
Yep.
No offence to Auckland and those who love Auckland.
Yes, Gordon?
The proposed centre they're going to establish here in Whangarei for Northland,
Yes.
that could run the country if everything else fell apart, couldn't it? It could be a default if, I would expect it would have that sort of technology in there.
Jenny's kind of got this on.
Through the chair, the centre would not be big enough for the staffing required to run a national crisis management centre. For a regional, yes. For local, yes, but for national, we would need to go up. So if we got the funding, we could do it. But
No, I'm just wondering if these individual provincial centres are enough to default if the major places went down.
The way I see it is that Northland will be mightily engaged in supporting the rest of the country in that kind of scenario. Your multi-agency coordination centre will be, I believe, fit for purpose for the job that it's required to do to support the region and the rest of the country.
Good. Any further questions from Mike, our NEMA person? I'm going to move the recommendation that the report be received. Do I have a seconder? We put in. All those in favour? Okay, next item, government inquiry. Government inquiry into the North Island severe weather events, key findings, and the first recommendation is that the report be received. Is there a second one? Yes, and that the emergency manager provides a report on the recommendations from the report of the inquiry, blah, 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 for the next meeting of the group, outlining what actions can be implemented in Northland in the immediate term ahead of the government's decisions on the recommendations. And there was an explanation in the report why, but Louise is going to talk to that as well. If you'd like to.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We reported back to the KEG. We've done some analysis on this report, and basically from an operational perspective, the CEs are very interested in seeing where the gaps are for Northland. So you've got some high level information in the report there, and a really good summary of what our responsibilities are as councils. I think Northland came out pretty well from the report, but there are gaps. And so the staff will do a piece of work around really highlighting what those are and what we can do, as we've said, ahead of what the government, any government decisions, so what we can do as quick wins and in the short term.
No.
And we'll bring those to the next meeting. And so they'll go to the KEG first, and then my expectation is that the KEG will raise any concerns that they come out of their discussion from their meeting up to you, so you can see that there's what risks are involved.
Has anybody had a chance to read government inquiry? Oh, good to see you nodding, Mike.
It's not that riveting, don't you know?
Yes. I skip read it, to be honest, but there were patches in there that I was just horrified by some of the things that happened to people, and we got off really lucky. Yeah. Any questions around that?
Happy to move it.
Thank you. Vince has moved. We Putty has seconded. All those in favour? Let's pull to those recommendations. The next item is membership and appointments. I think item 7.1. And before we put the recommendation, I actually have ask that because Andy Dowdall has left NBC, that we remove him from membership. And I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge, was it in this report or the next report?
This one,
Yeah, Sarah.
page 21.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just the change with Sarah leaving. Sarah, it is the next report, mention it in the next report. Cool. So is that okay, Louisa, that we remove Andy Dowdall and Ruben and Mark will go through the process of getting the prospective person to be the replacement for the next agenda item, next meeting. And I've got a question from Jeff.
Yes, we've had a change around at our council as well, and we've got Rick Stolwalk here. He's going to take over my role.
Okay.
And I've got to head off to a meeting now, so I'd like to invite Rick to sit in here.
Yep.
Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I've got to
Welcome, Rick. Welcome back.
Okay.
very passionate. As you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. See you.
See ya.
Didn't know you're going quite so quickly.
I've got to be in Auckland at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So just confirming, I think Rick is going to be the actual and Tui the alternate still?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Right, did we have any other changes?
Just the alternates aren't listed in there, that's all.
No, that's good points.
Yes,
Through the chair.
yes, Louisa?
So as part of, as the alternates are not normally listed because under the Civil Defence Act, it's a different structure to normal council meetings in that one representative only from each council, is my understanding, which is why we don't normally list the alternates as well. It's, whereas it's supposed to be different in other council meetings, it says you.
Yeah.
The legislation quite clearly says one. If you wish us to list the alternates in the future, we can do that. We prefer.
I think we prefer.
We'll take that for action.
Thank you. We've got Craig is your alternate?
Erin Wilson Collins.
Erin is, do you have Erin as Gordon's alternate recorded somewhere?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Nick is Vince's, Tui is Rick's. I'm going to ask for a mover of the recommendation with those amendments. That's Vince and Gordon. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Right, so 7.2, the chair's report. And sorry, I forgot to say Graham puts his apologies as well. So I'm just going to add those into the apologies. And we have Jenny in his place today, or Louisa. I have mentioned in the past that I like the presentations that the staff do, but management are trying to ensure that staff are, you know, doing what they're meant to be doing rather than telling us what we should have read in the agenda already. Any questions from this report, colleagues?
Seeing I didn't expect to be on here so quick, but I just want to, I don't know if I've checked it, the tsunami project plan. So we did get it in the paper for rollout. Now, the paper said it was not going, they were slowing down or stopping or something. So what is actually happening, Louisa?
We happen to have Brendan in the room who was
Right.
poised and ready to answer tsunami.
Good Chair,
Sorry.
for the question. So as far as pausing goes, we've paused some sites. So there are 4 sites that are on pause, but that just means we move on to other sites effectively. So the project itself is still continuing, but there are 4 sites that we're working through, looking at, and a couple of them looking at alternate locations and working through community engagement with them. Answer that question. Through the chair, if I may, while I've got the conversation in hand, this is probably, I guess, more for Ruben and Moko for your benefit. There's a note in there about Ramp Road and the potential to relocate the siren that's there. That went to Keeg through a paper after the last meeting and has been approved. And so I just thought I'd show, hopefully this comes up. This is the result of pulling the siren out of Cable Bay. Cable Bay is between those 2 sirens. So if you know the pictures well, then you've got Taipara on the left and Cooper's on the right. Cable Bay is right in the middle. So, but effectively what that shows is that Cable Bay is still well covered as far as siren coverage goes. So hopefully that alleviates some concerns there, Ruben. And that siren will get moved into the Ramp Road area to cover that area up there. So that one.
So sound will not be an issue?
Correct.
Yeah, just on that subject, Ruai, was there a moving of location or position of it?
Yeah, so there hasn't been a decision made in that area, but yes, basically Ruai had a siren that was paused. There was a community group that was a bit of a niche group that wasn't part of the engagement there, and they had some plans for the area. So that's gone back to Kaipara District Council to make a decision on. There's 2 alternate locations there. Neither of them are as good as far as, I guess, our perspective goes, but they are acceptable.
Just, and my ask, the green band that you've got there, it's obviously a constant over the sea because there's less obstruction. Would that Ruai location transmit across to Kelly's Bay, across to Podu Point or not?
No.
No. So it does drop off quite dramatically, does it?
Yeah, I'd have to have a look on a map for that one for you. So you're more than welcome to come up after this and have a chat. Try and figure it out.
I just wanted to say I'm not going to bring my frustrations and things to this. Thank you for welcoming me back again today. And I just want to say thank you to the staff and people for dealing with the situations with the public that we've been dealing with. I'll leave it at that. I just want to say thank you again.
Yeah, it has. I had down here in the report, it talks about consultation with landowners. And I think one of the issues is that when the land is council land, each council has a different approach or significance and engagement policy. And I'm not sure that, is there anything we could do better to, or is it the individual councils that need to do better?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That's a good question. I mean, ultimately, it's about what capacity we've got from a time, resource and financial perspective. We have engaged each of the councils a year or so, even more, and brought their community engagement teams on board. And that's had different effects with different councils based on how their resourcing goes as well. In the case of Far North, they've actually got quite a big community engagement team comparatively. So they're doing a lot of work in that space and helping us out a lot, whereas Whangarei has a 1-person community engagement team. So very different capabilities. For us, we have me, as far as this project goes. So very hard to get around to everybody in the amount of time that we've got for the project.
Yes, Louisa?
Through the chair. So one of the challenges with this project is that it was obviously set in train a few years ago when some of us weren't sat around this table. And the funding that was provided through the LTP process the amount of funding and the timing of it didn't allow for the amount of public consultation that we would all like to have done. I mean, that's the reality. So when Brendan talks about he is the only resource, he is effectively the only resource that was brought on board as part of the project to deliver it. So that's And I absolutely understand what your frustrations are, and thank you for not bringing them to the table. I appreciate that. But that's why when people are saying why you would do public consultation, there's just been some constraints that have prevented us doing the job that we might want to have done.
Very worried about the EPDC, even though we've got a great team up north. We've already started receiving some emails, but I'm sure it will be fine. Any other questions on the whole report,
Yep.
Rick? Yes.
Again, sorry, it's just on page 30 on the, it's number 11, community response planning, Marai planning update. You know, I really do think this is the core of, as we know, it's the core of civil defence when things go wrong. So it's great to see there's some reviewed there. There's 4 or 5 reviewed, or 4. Can we get I'd be keen, for instance, as attending ratepayer meetings myself, 3 or 4 in my area. There's always questions about how active that group is. And I know some aren't, so I'd be very keen on getting an update on the whole lot, actually. Seeing I'm back in.
In terms of what?
Just if they're active, inactive, or, because I know there's a couple in my area
So,
that some are very active.
do you mean the ones that we have response plans for?
Yeah, that are, we have response, we've got response plans for them all, but some of them aren't. I know they aren't very active or capable of enacting their response plan. Does that make sense?
I think that yeah, I'd have to ask.
Yeah, that's right. There's no rush. I
If
just
it's
wanted to.
possible to have that as a report item in the future.
Doesn't have to be, well, I'm just keen to get it. I'm sure the others will be not for the.
I'm wondering whether we can do some sort of colour coding.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So
We did have that once before.
it's done. So it says, so rather than rejigging the whole
Yep.
report and making additional vote, the staff come up with a colour code as to
Yeah,
whether.
we did have that once, so I'm keen to have that again.
Well, the ones in this report have just been updated, so that probably won't work and probably needs to be just a whole list. FNDC, these are the ones we have plans for. Green is they're active.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And
Orange, they're
it's
being
done.
worked on.
That's
They've got-
done?
They've got it, so.
It's there somewhere, isn't it?
Agenda, cool.
Thank you.
And they are available online as well, if you need to check. But
The plans are online, but I don't think.
And we
it's
do
clear.
have a list of all the visual.
Okay, thanks very much.
Or do we want it as an agenda item or just sent out as a?
Or do you just want to
Information.
all provide links to the?
The links will be good. Is that all right?
The links to the online one
Thank you.
in the report next time? And we can send it out separately this now.
Yeah.
As part of agenda item, but in the future reports, we'll provide the links.
Oh, the links are, we all know where the response plans are. That doesn't give us the information of, like, say, for example, Kiri, who are just, they haven't had a response group for like 5 years, but their plan is up there. So online, we don't have the information of who's active.
We can get
But
that.
Penny's got
that.
updated and
That's what I'm after.
Yep.
Thank you.
I also wanted to take the time in this report to acknowledge our Sarah Boniface, who is leaving civil defence to go into the health sector. And I just want to acknowledge that before Sarah came on, Bill was this sad, busy, quite lonely and sad person who was always busy. He's still very busy, but Sarah filled a need, and I think we're going to need 3 people to replace her. And getting those, those response groups activated, helping review plans, in response mode as well. And I don't know how we're going to cope without you, Sarah, up in the far north. And I know you'll still be there in a capacity and so on, but I better stop because Bill's getting a tear in his eye. And just want to acknowledge Sarah. Okay for you, because I only finished reading the agenda this morning, sorry. And I was like, what? Texted Bill. Yeah, does anybody else have any comments or questions from the big report on our agenda? No. I'm looking for a mover. It's Vince again. I'll second. All those in favour? And thank you very much, Louisa, for providing the update for the, where is it? Item 7.3 now. Update on the Te Taitokuto Resilience Action Plan, and some of you will recall, Rick, you probably may not have heard or seen this. Who else was around the table? Gordon, you were there sometimes. We, following on from during recovery with Mark and some funding from Calvin Davis, we had the opportunity to do a resilience action plan, and one of the recommendations from the Cyclone Gabrielle governance group was that it got, you know, reported here, so it didn't sit on a shelf somewhere and not go anywhere. So that's why it's on this agenda. Any comments or questions on this report? No. Okay, I'll move. It's a seconding. All those in favour? Okay, and this is one of the most important. Next. To 7.4. Recommendation is that we receive the report on the Northland CDM Group Plan 2021 to 2026. And question that I had, but I'll wait for anybody else because I need to remember. So that. While you're all thinking, in the earlier report, in the KEG Chairs report in FNDC section, it talked about other activities undertaken have been relative to the work plan as outlined in the Far North District Council Service Level Agreement. And when I read this report, I couldn't really see anything that was word saying, oh, this is what FNDC are doing.
Through the chair.
Yep.
So this is a report specifically against the CDM Group. The SLA is around specifically what FNDC have asked, or have asked Sarah and Bill to deliver. Basically, they have a work programme that fulfills their part of delivering the CDM Group plan. So this is a much higher level, if you like.
Yep.
Following on from that, the KEG, we had discussions at the KEG around how this is reported, and the fact that this is actually linked to your operational report, your KEG Chairs report, but you can't necessarily, because you're not as familiar with it as the team are, you don't necessarily see all the links. And you also don't get high-level visibility of where the risks are, or where we might not be delivering as well as we want. So we're going to do some work on how we report against the CDM Group plan, so you can see clearly where we're on track.
Right.
And where we might be orange or whatever colour traffic light system that Graham chooses to use. But so it's much more obvious to you
as governance,
where you should be asking us questions.
Yeah, that's excellent, because at our various council tables as well, we're not necessarily getting that information, and we need to know it, especially when we're going into LTP deliberations or any plans. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
They've also asked that all the SLA agreements come to the KEG as well,
Excellent.
because they want to show all of the KEG members where the funding is going for the different work programs in the individual councils, because each council has a different work program in how they're going to deliver on the CVEM group.
Yeah. I don't like getting my head down in the weeds, but I think it would be good to be helpful to have some awareness of what that SLA is. It's not budget wise and resource wise. So something for you to.
Well, have a think about the best way to do that
Okay.
without wanting to bring you all into the weeds.
Yes. That's
Yeah, I'll just, in relation to the readiness action plan, I noticed that communities understand their risks and are prepared. Yet there's nothing in there in relation to the farming community. There's nothing in there in relation to those who are actually running big businesses. So while it says that the communities and the businesses understand their risks, I'm not seeing any actions which are actually taking, which will actually identify those issues. You know, if we look at this last storm that we had, what was the two biggest things that we lack of? Transportation and power. Yes, communication was part of it, and communication has been included. Power hasn't been included, and neither has transportation.
off the top of your head, Jenny, is farming in our civil defence plan? Yeah, so it is.
It is, but not as Nicole Burley says, it's not listed specifically.
Yeah.
Although we do work closely with the agricultural sector right across the board, not just farming, but also other growers, not just our dairy farmers or our beef farming, but we work closely with our growers in other areas of the agricultural sector through the Rural Support Trust. But we're also doing a lot of work around that business continuity, not just for urban businesses, but for our rural businessmen as well. Business people, sorry. our rural businesses.
And I actually saw an ad, not an ad, a post on Facebook from Northland Civil Defence around, is it farming or agriculture, about
It
business
is through
continuity.
some of the work Mark's been doing.
Yeah, business
There's been
continuity.
business continuity
Which
which run across Taitowhaka, and our rural profession partners are also.
And that's
promoting
readiness and
this.
planning.
Is there anything in relation to transportation? Because I didn't see anything in here in relation to transportation and the continuation of transportation. Yes, our lifelines. Yes, thank you. That's the words I'm after.
Through the chair, the transportation is a big portion of our lifelines, as we all know, but it's also business continuity for the businesses who use the transport systems, but also for our transport businesses themselves, and what that looks like. It's a huge piece of work, and encouraging them to look at what their fail safes are. So something that any business should have business continuity.
I guess it's also worth just putting into, just giving you the context that when this was put together, it is a 5-year plan, so that it doesn't get reviewed either, in my understanding, in that period. So the context, I know transportation is always important, but the context of how important it was at the time that this was written was probably not as well known as it is now that we've had this weather event. So when we rewrite it, you'll probably find that it's a little bit different from the other priorities.
And where, like, so it is a 5-year plan, but
Where are we in the cycle?
yeah, cycle for reviewing.
This
Like-
plan was 2021 to 2026.
Yeah.
So next year will we be coming up to start that review of the plan, because it's quite a process.
Yeah.
Go through.
All right.
I could go on about the farming thing, but it's just technology has advanced too much and it's made it too difficult to go back to basics. 10 years ago, the farms would just back their tractor up and operate their milking machine off a PTO.
Gotcha.
But now technology has gone so far that the generators don't work, PTOs they can't do. So we've gone too far without having a look at that emergency. And that's probably needs addressing some way how we can go back to basics. And in effect is what Vince was talking about transportation. We virtually turned the Kaipara area into about 20 different islands. And that's sort of the only way to visually sort of imagine what actually happened there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got around it, but
We're still working around it.
yeah, well, yeah. So just, yeah, technology's gone too far. It hasn't kept up with our back to basics, I think. We need to probably put that into the plan somewhere.
Well, it comes back to business continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of farmers during, I can use Cyclone Gabriel as an example, just rocking up with a generator and plugging it is not that simple.
No.
Your plant's got to be wired to
Standardization.
be able to run off a generator. It's got to be a size. So it's been a big learning curve for a lot of those businesses.
But
They have.
Yeah, but it used to be all right the last time. So, yeah.
But the technology has
Yeah, now your rotary, your 40, 50 bale rotary is not going to run on what you had your 80 and a side herringbone running on. It's quite a different setup. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, Rick.
Can I just go to, sorry, we finished with that? Can I just go to 4.4 on page 56, the recovery arrangements? So do we have Mark? We didn't, Mark wasn't on board in 2020. You didn't start it. Did you start? No. So it is quite a bit out of date, isn't it? This, and is that right? It's being reviewed next year for 2026.
Start the review.
Start the review here.
Yes.
So, I was interested in your comment, Louisa, that it doesn't get, there's no, I can't remember, but is this how it came out? It hasn't been updated, so it's come out like this.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
I remember when it was last developed, I engaged in it. I
Yeah.
wasn't part of
Yeah, I
this,
remember
but
that. I just
yeah.
couldn't remember if I can't believe we don't review it in 5 years or do something in 5 years. It's just
Well, we
sits there.
monitor it. We get this report every meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to question that because obviously Mark wasn't here and a huge amount's happened in that space. And so it's, to me, that's, I guess it's not covered in that. But
Do you want to move a amendment, Rick, that we ask for a report on whether
I'm just trying to think where we are. We're over halfway through, aren't we?
And we had significant weather events.
Yep. I just guess sorry.
Chairman, just through the chair. So the action in the group plan on those pages that an accurate and widely understood common operating picture is developed and maintained. That was the action that was developed in the group plan. So we know that there is work already being done on that. And that actually the NEMA have come out and said there's going to be a national one and that we should all be looking at the same
Type of plan.
common operating picture, the top software that's going to deliver that software.
Is that for recovery?
No, that's just in general for managing a response, and also it will be for recovery as well. The second action out of the group plan, both of which are still relevant, recovery arrangements are implemented as soon as practical following on from an emergency. So that was the action in the plan, and that is the action, and that happened. Still, what changes is that what over time is learning from experience and from different weather events are the actions to deliver that. So sorry, the objective was to recovery arrangements are implemented as soon as practical. And the actions there, that's what was in the CDM group plan. Those are the things that we're delivering about, but they're all still relevant now.
Yep.
We are delivering against those.
Yeah, thanks, Louisa. What I'm picking up on though is that members are wanting to update the actions. the actions, can't just change them at this table. They need to go through the plan.
So we'll be reviewing it next year. Do you want to bring that forward? As part of a whole, it's going to get rewritten.
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm happy to lead from others because obviously, I do apologise. I've been in and out of CTM. So
Could we just have a response at the next meeting on whether we can amend those actions today or whether we have to go through a whole consultation of the new document? Because there might be a simple way of updating actions. Jenny?
So through the chair, part of the process of a group plan is that it's reviewed and it's signed off at a ministerial level. So there's quite a lot to actually
Go through.
change and amend a plan. This was started when we were in drought, and a lot of learnings have happened, but a suggestion would be that we update where we're at against the plan, and that will also move to inform where we go with our next plan, start
That was the point about the traffic lights.
Yeah.
So that's what I mentioned at the beginning, and that also came out of the CAG meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they were asking for.
Thank you. That's perfect.
We agree with that. Great.
And Chair, just a continuation on what Jenny's saying there, I actually agree with the process we're going through. I'm just quite conscious that right now is the time we actually need to start doing this, not next year. We actually need to do it now so that we've got the document ready for next year, so it's actually can be approved by ministers, so it can then be enacted by 2026, rather than waiting till 2026 before we can actually start going out through the process. So I just...
So through the chair,
Yes, Louise.
there is a well-trodden process to follow with all the timings so that it's ready by 2026. So I don't have the detail of that, Graham will, but I'm very happy for him. We could bring that back to the table next time.
Okay.
So you can see how the timings will fit in to give you assurance that it will be delivered on time.
Perfect.
You look like you wanted to add something.
No.
Really good. Thank you.
Not in the question.
Okay. Anything further on our group plan? Move that and Rick and seconding, all those in favour?
Right.
And now we'll go to our partners sitting at our table. Who wants to? Wipari?
I suppose just from
Fence?
emergency New Zealand's point of view, so obviously a really dry winter, moving it into spring, a little bit of concern if we get the same weather patterns for an improved, a more dangerous fire season ahead of us, but trying to deal with that and drought at the same time. So, and I suppose the long-term forecast last year was to have 3 seasons of it. So we're doing some pre-planning in relation to what that weather might bring us if we don't get heaps more rain this winter. Thank you.
Thanks for that. There was a post out from, was it NIWA last week on the weather? They pretty much said the drought is broken. So that's interesting to hear your.
Yes, I think, so what's on the Fire and Emergency New Zealand website, we have our weather stations right across Northland. If you look on, they'll give you the weather indices, and if you look on one in particular called the drought code, you'll be able to, if you just hover your cursor over the top of it, it will give you an explanation, but you will notice that in a lot of our localities,
We try.
it's still dry.
Yeah.
Fairly
So
dry.
their weather was Whangarei South.
Just a big put up there from the farming community. They're desperately dry.
Yeah.
They desperately want water. So there's 2 different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Message. We need to ensure that that messaging is correct for us, because when we are in dire circumstances like a drought, it can get confusing for ministers trying to do
Most definitely.
response or funding requests.
Us, the firemen and the farmers, they know how wet it is.
Matt, are you still there? Is there any update from police?
Yep,
For us?
hi there. Yeah, sorry, just the only thing concerning me still at the moment, from a national perspective, just around connectivity. So, you know, and just highlighting where technology's gone. We're so reliant on, you know, our connections to the internet, etc. You know, we had an event of national significance across the Motu. There's a good likelihood that most of our communications would be cut off. Just our ability to actually connect, and I just don't know if we've actually really resolved that one yet at a national level. I think there's a little bit of nervousness around that from my perspective and our organisation's perspective still.
Thank you for that, Matt. Ruben, can I ask that you pass that on to Tom? Is it Tom? No.
Yes.
Thank you. Tom's got the, what's it called? Reconnecting Northland portfolio at FNDC for the region. Anybody else? General business? That's us then. T? Holy moly, what a record.
Good.
I shall do our closing karakia. And we'll all be our merry way. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai ato tātou ara ki o ihu karaiti me te aroha o te atua me te pipinga taitanga ki te wairua tapu ake ake. Amene. Amene. Thank you, everybody.
That's awesome. Thank you.
It's up to date.
So you're going to be choosing. So I'm going to